They told him to die, not in battle, not for country, for politics. And the man who wrote so much about how to live showed us how to face the end with clarity. This is File 4, Seneca, The Cost of Clarity. Born in Corduba, what you'd call modern-day Spain, Lucius Annaeus Seneca was raised in the empire's iron heart, Rome, son of a famous orator. Educated in rhetoric, philosophy, law, he was sickly as a child, asthma, fatigue but sharp. Too sharp to be silenced by breathlessness. Rome tried to mold him. He let it just enough. Then he wrote his own doctrine in ink and blood. He didn't just study Stoicism. He tested it in the Senate, in court, in exile. And under Nero, he said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And Seneca suffered plenty. Quick rise to power, then banished by the Empress Messalina, accused of an affair. Sent to Corsica for 8 years. Stripped of title. Forgotten. He could have broken. But he wrote. That's what Stoics do. They build with what remains. He wrote of exile, of pain, of loss, and how a man must rule his mind when he cannot rule his fate. Then politics turned again. Nero became emperor. Seneca was recalled, not as a threat, as a tutor, a Stoic advising a tyrant. That's a powder keg. And Seneca stood right on top of it. Here's your first call to action. If you've ever had to survive inside a system that doesn't share your values, if you've walked through power structures holding your breath, waiting for the axe, this story is yours. Pass it forward. Let someone else know. You're not the first in that fire. Seneca was Nero's advisor, but his teachings stayed sharp. He said, "It is a rough road that leads to the heights of greatness." He spoke of virtue not as a shield, but as a cost. He warned that wealth can rot character. That fear is the enemy of judgment. That anger is a form of madness. He wrote, "No man was ever wise by chance. He amassed wealth, yes, but he lectured the rich on their vanity. He held influence, yes, but he reminded rulers they were mortal. He knew hypocrisy would be the charge, but he tried to wield his position like a scalpel, not a scepter." Seneca's most famous works? The moral letters to Lucilius' tribe. In them, he taught how to die with dignity, how to greet pain without panic, how to stay free even in bondage. He wrote, "Begin at once to live, and count each separate day as a separate life." Gauge here. That line, I kept that one tucked in my journal, same one I wrote in during the siege of Argonne Black. Day after day, when death knocked and the comms went dark, each day, a separate life. He was right. Now, here's the turn. The Pisonian conspiracy. A plot to kill Nero. Seneca's name came up, maybe truth, maybe lie. Did he conspire? Maybe, maybe not. What matters is this. Nero believed it. The punishment was death, but not by sword. That would be too public. Nero ordered Seneca to take his own life. Rome's version of a clean exit. Let's get this clear. Seneca didn't want to die. He wasn't suicidal. He was cornered. Refuse and watch his family tortured. Comply and die with a final measure of control. He chose to meet death awake. He tried to open his veins. His blood ran slow. Age and illness. They gave him poison. Still slow. Finally, he suffocated in a steam bath surrounded by students. And the whole time, he dictated. He taught. He said, "He who fears death will never do anything worthy of a man who is alive." He turned his death into one final lesson. That's not martyrdom. That's mission complete. Let me tell you what that meant to me. I followed orders I didn't believe in. Tried to steer the wreckage from inside the machine. Sometimes you can't win, but you can still live right even if you lose. Seneca wasn't perfect, but he was consistent. That's rarer than courage. Second call to action. You've been called a hypocrite because you tried to do good inside something broken. Remember Seneca. You don't need to be spotless. You need to be anchored. Let's end with the weight of his words. As is a tale, so is life. Not how long it is, but how good it is what matters. It leads the willing and drags along the reluctant. Hang on to your youthful enthusiasms. You'll be able to use them better when you're older. Religion is regarded by the common people as true, by the wise as false, and by rulers as useful. It was sharp. Sharp enough to cut through lies and still draw truth. Seneca stood in the storm, And when they came for him, he stood anyway. He didn't rage. He didn't beg. He finished what he started. This is Gage. Trench Meditations, File 4. The Cost of Clarity. I'll be back if the lines hold.